Thank you very much, Jim. It is now my pleasure to introduce our student speaker for today's ceremony. It doesn't sound like he needs any introduction, but please, Sesinos, please stand. Sesinos Zerbabiel. Sesinos is majoring in marketing with a minor in informatics. He was a YEOC student, a member of Delta Sigma Pi Business Fraternity, the Montlake Consulting Group, and GC3, the Global Business Case Competition Club. He studied abroad in Paris and recently returned from competing in a case competition in Thailand. I want to take a moment to share how Sesinos' student and staff colleagues describe him. Sesinos is an individual who embodies a level of selflessness and positive attitude that inspires anyone who comes into contact with him. He is a role model in every aspect of the word. Sesinos has this superpower in being able to bring people together, whether it be a group project, the club commitments, or his relationships with his friends. He carries a warm and inviting spirit wherever he goes, and he leaves an indelible impression of his friendliness that makes you feel not just welcomed, but accepted. Sesinos is a community leader who takes ownership in making those around him better. His determination, regardless of what barrier or obstacle you put in his way, is unstoppable. He is thoughtful, caring, and most importantly, humble in everything he does. Upon graduation, Sesinos will be heading to New York City to join Ernst & Young as a management consultant in their digital practice. How about that? Please join me in a warm welcome for Foster's 2019 graduating class student speaker, Sesinos Zerbabiel.
Oh man, I promised myself I wouldn't be too emotional, so don't mind me. Wow. Thank you, Dean Subchuk, for that introduction. To start off in my native language, Tigrinya, Zkhabarkumin, Zkhabarkinin. Kabruhuk Karaban, Inkwa Badahan Matsahum. Inkwa Nabzikha Abkaanna. And now back to English. Ladies and gentlemen, those from far and near, families, students, faculty, and the illustrious class of 2019. It is a great privilege and honor to be speaking before you today. Now, before I get started, I would like to take a moment to honor the Coast Salish people, the indigenous people to the land we're currently standing on. My name is Sesinos Zerbabiel. I am a proud first-generation Eritrean-American and the first in my family to be obtaining a bachelor's degree. My story begins in Eritrea, a small country located in the Horn of Africa, a country where under Italian colonial rule, my grandparents were only allowed to be schooled until the 4th grade. Colonization led to Ethiopian annexation, and my parents fled Eritrea in the late 80s, escaping war, genocide, and instability. It was fear that pushed my mother, Tsagerera Mengistu, and my father, Zerbabiel Balai, out of their homes and into the unknown. They found refuge in Sudan and eventually the United States. Eritrea eventually became independent, but has since become one of the world's worst human rights abusers. With their fear has been instilled to silence, suppress, and has pushed out thousands of Eritreans who just want the opportunity to work toward bettering their lives. The only thing my family and many others knew was that they needed to leave but had no anticipation of where they would end up. You see, anything was better than the status quo. The only thing stronger than fear was hope. I can't help but think how privileged we are, not only to receive an education, but the ability to use it to propel us into opportunities that will better our lives. But most importantly, It's our ability to dream, our ability to accomplish anything we put our minds to, something my people haven't been able to do for generations. Like many immigrants, my parents came from very little, but they have sacrificed everything to create a foundation for my siblings and I. Whether it was my mother waking up at 2 a.m. every morning only to come home after work and take us to soccer and swimming practices, never complaining about anything, unlimited to no sleep. My father only getting to see us on mornings before school and weekends as they planned their work schedule so that there was always one parent at home. They gave us everything they never had and everything I could have ever asked for, and for that I'm forever grateful. Through their sweat and tears, they fostered and instilled the values of hard work, responsibility, resilience, humility, patience, community, culture, and giving back. I always knew I had to do my part, as my family and community have done for me, that I have a responsibility to uplift others as I climb the ladder many of us call the American dream. Throughout the remainder of my speech, I want you to think about where you're from, where you are, and where you're going. For my parents, fear for their lives pushed them away from their homes into the unknown. They had to stay hopeful for a better future. I want you all to think about some of your fears or roadblocks that you feel are preventing you from getting to where you need to be. And allow me to tell you a story about a time I had to overcome one of my fears. Now think back to senior year of high school. We're wrapping up an important milestone in our lives just as we are today. We're excited about being adults, getting into our dream schools, as UW was for me. Through my involvement with UW's amazing high school programs, such as Young Executives of Color, and being a Seattle native, I romanticized being here like it was going to be my gateway for better opportunities. I felt that my success depended on me being here. But spring came around, and I faced one of my worst fears, a rejection from UW. Now, this fear was different than that of my parents and my grandparents. It wasn't fear for life. It was a fear of thinking I wasn't worthy enough. I was the first after generations to have started schooling where there weren't these harsh realities deviating me from success. I was heartbroken. You see, the rejection wasn't just about me. Being a first-generation college student is also about fighting the injustices and inequalities that the world has created for so many groups of people, and especially for those that came before me, while also paving the way for those that come after me. The feeling of betrayal and rejection haunted me. Not only did I feel like I failed myself, but even worse, I felt like I failed my family, my friends, and my community. Fear can oftentimes consume our thoughts, and it can be one of the hardest things we have to deal with or overcome. This moment was one of my biggest tests. I knew I had to find another way to pursue that education. I was determined to fulfill my dreams, and I refused to take no as an answer. So I appealed, but once again, faced rejection. Not in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be speaking before you here today, let alone graduating from the same institution that denied me entrance, not once, but twice. I let the decision of institutions define and limit my definition of success. I knew I had no choice but to pursue a higher education, but it was hard to do so when I felt like a failure. I picked myself back up. I moved across the country to attend George Mason University. It was tough to swallow the fact that I wasn't at UW at first, but the second I changed my perspective of what getting an education actually meant, my experience changed for the better. I quickly realized that it was the place I needed to be at that point of time in my life. But I eventually realized that I had outgrown my environment. I longed for a different pace and set of experiences to continue growing, while also saving on tuition. During my junior year, I decided to leave and decided it was no longer worth it. I moved back to Seattle at the end of 2016 with nothing lined up, but with the anticipation of finishing my bachelor's degree at an in-state school. You see, it wasn't about UW. I attended Seattle Central as I figured out my next step. I put in my 100% and was extremely patient with myself and the decision I made to deviate from the traditional path. I wasn't always sure I was making the right decision, but I kept reminding myself of who I was, why I left, and where I was going. From the second I moved back to Seattle, I have been welcomed with open arms by some of our amazing advisors who have been there as support and guidance out of my academic journey. A year later, and despite the constant doubt, difficulties, and patience, my dream became my reality. I was accepted into the University of Washington and directly into the Foster School of Business. But it was different this time. This moment didn't fulfill my dream. My dreams lied elsewhere, and this opportunity, this institution would help me get there. Once here, I hit the ground running knowing I only had 5 quarters until graduation. But since being here, I felt challenged, made some great memories, have traveled the world, de-stressed at Wells Wednesday, and most importantly, I was able to reconnect with the community I had left just a few years earlier. A part of me doesn't want to leave yet, but then the student loan emails have started to come in and somebody has to pay those off. Through all the adversity I've faced, I knew I could depend on my family, my community, my people. I'm a strong believer in that it takes a village to raise a child. And lucky for us, many of us have our village right here with us in this room. I want to take a moment to recognize our biggest supporters. Through our degrees come with our names, it's also important to recognize it's been impacted and manifested through our experiences and the people we've encountered throughout our lives. Today, our families and communities are also gaining a degree, so congratulations to you all as well. My experiences have taught me my biggest lesson, my self-worth. And I hope your life experiences have taught you the same. That no school or company can or will define you. Only you have the power to define yourself. Many of you are off to start your jobs, grad school, or even taking some time off. I leave you with this message. Fear is something to overcome. For my parents, fear drove them from their homes. It was what they had to overcome when they moved to a completely foreign place. For me, I faced it when I thought my failures equated my self-worth. I thought my rejections defined me as a failure. Whether you know what comes next or not, knowing your self-worth will make you unstoppable. It lets you advocate for yourself because you know you deserve the best. Don't let anything or anyone hold you back. Don't let any institution define or limit your definition of success. And most importantly, stay true to yourselves. As long as you know who you are, you will never be lost. Graduation is an opportunity to reflect back at our many years of stress, adversity, and achievements. Graduation is also a step closer to accomplishing our dreams. For me, this is one step closer to fighting the same barriers I and many others face from within, but also a step closer to empowering and giving back to the same communities that gave me so much. May you embark on your lives with dignity, intention, and humility. Remember your roots and never forget where you came from. Remember to be critical, stay true to your values, and be an advocate for those who may not have the same privileges as you do. Remember that there are some serious barriers still in place that are preventing so many people from being successful. Ya'akil, enough to the injustices that my people face in Eritrea, and enough to the systematic racism and oppression that my fellow minorities face in this country. We all have a choice to stand up for the injustices we see in the world and in our daily lives. We especially have the power as future business leaders to change the heart of capitalism from exploitation to empowerment. To empower disadvantaged communities, to empower immigrants, to empower women, and especially women of color. We need to learn from the mistakes that many have made before us. Our country is facing some of the worst income disparities the world has ever seen. It is obvious that American individualism is doing us more harm than good. If we can help change If we can help change the fabric of that reality from me to we, I promise you that all 700 of us graduating here today have the power to leave this world a better place. And we can do that together. As I'm leaving, I want to say thank you to the amazing peers, mentors, teacher, friends, and family who have left a mark on me throughout my life. I want you all to stand and applaud, not for me, but for the people who have impacted you, your families, your village, your tribe. Together, we stand for our communities, and together we stand for changing the heart of capitalism. I wish you all the best of luck as you charge onward. Thank you and congratulations, class of 2019.